Scooter.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. It is December 1st of 2025, and I'm here on the DevTalkShow. My name is Chris Gomez. I'm joined by my producer, Scooter the dog, and my co-host, Rich Ross.
Scooter.
Yeah, he decided to take a spot on camera for now. Scooter.
Every good producer needs to get on camera at some point, right?
Yeah. So welcome to the Dev Talk Show. It's Monday morning in the last month of the year, which
December 1st
gives me pause. So
always that retrospective of where did the year go?
Yeah, I know. So if you've been watching our show, you know that we have a back catalog of videos, and nowadays with most production platforms, you even get a transcript of what you say. So I guess what I'm saying is this is all information, right? This content, both the video content, maybe what we've done as a demonstration or what we've said, is all content. And sifting through content, I think for decades we've been using search engines and tools like search engines, and you can even like index. You can do text indexing of maybe like your blog or something to help people, search and get right to the point. But today, I think it's fair to say a lot of organizations or teams are looking to AI to do the same thing. So I'm new to how to put this together beyond the demo. And so we are going to try to get through how we can provide more value to our viewers. There might be some different ways to do it. It could be very interesting, so that when a show is completed, and I think there's multiple ways we want to go with this. One could just be maybe top of mind is an agent that helps you say, hey, Chris and Ross were talking about a time when they did a certain demo. When was that demo? What show and at what time? And maybe, and I'm dreaming, right? Maybe that's the purpose of AI, is to let us dream big. Is the agent says, oh, you must be talking about this show on such and such date, and here's a YouTube link directly to the point in the conversation. I don't know.
Right.
And I think that would be interesting. Plus, I've already seen that there are some products that are taking a role of like an AI post producer,
Mhm.
just to go through and do the things that they take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to post produce after a show and cut into clips and maybe add some cool transitions or zooming in or whatever. We see a lot of things on a lot of these clips nowadays, and clips are huge, as we know.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my curiosity. I don't have much more to go on than that, but
But that's a good starting point, right? Being curious
yeah.
is a good place to start. And as long as we all stay curious, then we've got a good chance of learning something. And I'll be honest, I know some of the stuff I'm gonna run through here is stuff I've done. It's been a little bit like we don't have a script. We never have a
Yeah,
script.
sure.
And it's just kind of okay. We know I've got this beginning in mind, we've got this end that I kind of think I can hit in about 45 minutes. So let's kind of see what we can get into, if that makes sense. But important thing is for those watching and listening, and if it's more than just the two that I see here, which is just Chris and I, ask your questions, right? This is a learning opportunity for everybody. I will say that I work with Microsoft, so I spend a lot of time using Microsoft tools, and that's kind of what we're going to show here. Is we're going to show some of the capabilities that we can do. Excuse me, with things like blob storage, things like what else are we going to use? We're going to do some AI Foundry for sure, because I think that is a good way to very quick, easy way to kind of get some content in there and be able to do some kind of question asking against it. And we'll see how far we can get to with that. What I'm doing off screen now is I'm just enabling some network stuff. And I know, Chris, you can't see any of this, but I'm basically making it possible to be able to see my blob storage from this machine. So we can start going ahead and building some stuff out.
Okay. A moment ago, you had said you work with Microsoft. Is it important that we make sure that
I
this
work at
for
Microsoft.
Microsoft? Yeah, right.
Yeah, my day job is talking to customers about these kind of topics.
Yep.
Oftentimes we whiteboard them and we kind of run through things and how they work. But sometimes, oftentimes, and I'm a firm believer in this, that just architecting solutions isn't enough. You have to kind of get your hands in there and understand really what those things do. So this is a chance for me to do a little bit of that here as well. So, but good catch. Thank you. I'm trying to remember that because that is, it puts a different filter on what it is we're talking about when we say, hey, that I work for Microsoft, and that what we're doing as a company to help customers and people understand how to leverage AI capabilities and bring AI into your applications. Those are the things that we really want to make sure that everyone understands and is able to do, essentially. So yeah. Okay. So let's see here. If I do, I'm going to try and do everything in the browser. I don't think for anything we're doing today, I need to be on my machine or on a developer machine. So let's see if we can get that working. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share my browser. Cool. All right. So I have a and I've got, so this is blob storage. It's probably very small to see. And I'm also
that's good. Now that you've
bumped
it, it's good. Yeah. Made a big
difference.
difference.
It like a few dozen times and it kind of makes it there. I move your camera over here so I can see you as well. Okay. So here's what we got. First thing I'm going to do is going to create a container. I could certainly do that. Although, let's try this. So we're probably going to come back to using the blob container at some point, because what I have here is locally a collection of documents. Now, this is a screen that you can't see, but essentially I have a folder that's got transcripts, and there's some old transcripts, but they're important ones because one of them that is in there, and two of them are related to part 2 and 3 of the authentication in Blazor WebAssembly from scratch, which are some of our more popular videos that we've done up on the site. So I've got that one. I've also got the enable sign-in from the Customize store, and then there's one about working with GitHub models. So I've got a bunch of different transcripts here. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if we can, let's just go ahead and add them to here. There's a couple different ways, as with a lot of these tools, there's a couple different ways you can do it, right? If you're starting from scratch, and we want to just be able to put this content in someplace that I know is accessible, let's go ahead and put it in this container area here. So we're going to call this TDTS. Yeah, it doesn't like capitals, so let's keep it all lowercase, TDTS transcripts. I don't need any other, but everything's private, so that's fine. Successfully created. Yep, that's cool. And then inside of here, what I'm going to do is say, let's go ahead and upload some files. And I'm going to go back to and drag in, because this drag and drop is really cool. And I've got essentially 4 files inside of here. I'm going to upload those. It takes a few seconds, and boom, there they all are. So now that transcript, and those transcripts are essentially they're VTT files. And not sure if they'll show in there. The VTT files those essentially are let me see if it's an easy way to show this. I don't want to share my whole screen. If I go here, let's open this. Oh, I know. If I do, what's VS Code in the browser?
VSCode.dev, I think. Yeah.
Cool. So now if I do this and I say, hey, let's open a folder, you can't see that, but that's fine. I go to, it's on it's local, this, and there. Allow. Yep, I trust it. Okay. So now you can see those files. So here we are. Here's the whole list of files. I've got this here, and you can see what's in that file. And essentially, that VTT file is a way of blocking out who said what when. Now, it doesn't really have the who in this version, but because it doesn't differentiate between, this particular one doesn't differentiate between Chris talking or me talking. It's basically just a run of content that goes over so many seconds. So in this case, this one went about 5 seconds. Let me zoom in a bit on there so you can see what we're looking at with our wonderful intros of, hey, I think we're live. And some of those things that we kind of start some things out with. But you can see the content is basically broken up into chunks. And that's important because oftentimes we'll want to say, well, what are the chunks that match what it is that we're searching for? So we kind of already have an idea of what those chunks might be when we get to some of the more complicated or the more advanced topics in a little bit. But essentially right now, this is what that file looks like.
Okay.
Now we certainly can do, at least from our platform, there's a couple different ways. Like let's say you don't have this, right? And there's a, let's say, you don't have this, but you have the audio, or you have the video file. If you have the video file, there's a way to basically break that apart and get just the audio. And then you can take that audio file, and there are a number of different ways of taking that speech, essentially that audio speech, and translating it into text, and basically getting a transcript generated. And if you're using some of the services that we have in Azure, they will actually do it and give it back in a format like this. And if you do it in a manner where it is I believe, I can't remember if it has to be mono or stereo, but documentation has this spelled out. But if you give it to it in that format, I believe it's mono. If you give it to a mono format, then it's able to understand how many speakers there are and identify them, not by name, but at least identify speaker 1, speaker 2. So you're able to say, well, this person said this and this person said this, and that gets included in the VTT. We don't have that here because our service doesn't give us that. It just basically gives us a run of the text.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Cool. Okay, so that kind of sets things up. So we have this text. Well, how would we be able to start to potentially search against it? So let's go into something we have in Azure. And and that is AI Foundry. So this is, it still is in preview, and I'm trying to be mindful of, hey, this was, if I recall, this is all stuff that we pretty much talked at Ignite. So what we're seeing here is the new version of it. If you played with AI Foundry or some of the previous AI Studio was what it was known as before that. Before that, it was just, it had some similar functionality, something called Azure OpenAI Studio. But this is kind of where we are now, and the construction of this has changed a good bit in that, yes, we can still create projects and we can still create components in Azure, but things are kind of bound by a couple of basically grouping. So we can do, this is our homepage, and from here we can, basically do almost an interactive code. Well, here's some coding start, but I think we had a bit of something else up there. Never mind. But basically, this is our landing page where other projects and things might be. But there's the discovery page where we can talk about, hey, what's possible with the tools that are available and the models that are available. We can actually get to the point of building something. So maybe we build out an agent, maybe we build out a workflow. These are the things that we're probably going to be getting more into as we go through this. And then once you build things out, we focus on the operations side of it, right? What is the telemetry, or the what's the new observability side of things, right? Being able to understand, what's that communication between the agent and our backend models, how many tokens are being passed forth, counting all of those. Are those messages getting processed? Are we running into errors, right? All of this stuff that you want to understand the health of your application with. So these three sections really help you understand how to get started. And because as you probably, and correct me if I had this wrong, Chris, but if I was to say, hey, we've got all this data and it sits in documents, we want you to build an application that can put some chat interface over this. Go ahead, get started. Where would you start?
So like you said, if it was just text and documents, then I guess you'd somehow want to feed it to there's a lot of things I don't know about boundaries around data, but I know that you can say like, hey, I want to use is it correct to say that you're using an existing large language model, but that it has access to your fenced in data? I'm not sure if that's even correct.
No, you're right. You're right. So
Okay.
you're starting to put the pieces together, right? You've got your data that lives somewhere. You're probably going to want to pass some information over to some kind of a model at some point. And then what's that thing in the middle that kind of understands, well, how much of that data goes into that conversation that happens to the model, right? And that technically can use a number of different things. You could, but it's some kind of a search capability, whether you're doing that in your code or you're taking advantage of something in the platform like Azure AI Search to go ahead and do that. So, but what I was getting at here is what kind of you ran into is like, I know I have these pieces. I'm not really sure how they go together, and I'm not really sure what are all the pieces that I really, really need. And that's where Foundry really takes off and helps you, because once you start to go down this process of, hey, I want to build this capability that I just mentioned about a chatbot looking over our documents, I can get into possibly some templates here. So let's take a look at that and see if we can kind of go through it. So sorry, I kind of rolled you under the bus there,
it was fine. I mean, because I'm trying to, I feel like a lot of people are in the same boat, is that
sure.
It's one thing to use these things and to know that they're, but then like wondering how do all the pieces fit together. And like you had mentioned about so there's naming is always interesting. So it looks like the naming, and I think you were saying this may have came out of it at Ignite, is Microsoft Foundry is the unifying a bunch of tools in Azure that it brings together kind of everything we're talking about, agents, models. It brings it together, and it looks like you create a project where you put these things together. Because just to double check, you had said earlier, I know it sometimes must be even a little exhausting to say, so is what I have access to publicly been announced, right? Look, I don't think I have the same level of issues, but there have been moments in the past where perhaps as a Microsoft MVP, we've been given access to something, and I
Sure.
keep racking my brain like, was this announced? Is this? I think it was. I don't remember. And you just want to be careful, right?
Mhm.
But the new portal, like so Azure AI.azure.com seemed to come up to me as like, okay, so here's the portal for Microsoft Foundry.
Right.
And when I tried to switch to new Foundry, it only stopped me to say, well, okay, cool, you can do that. You just got to create a project. And so that kind of clued me into that. You've done that part. There's a project up there right now.
Yeah, and in reality, I probably should, create a separate project. Project is a holding place for a set of resources that I need for this particular application that I'm building, or for this particular use case that I'm trying to solve. They doesn't mean that it is being created. It is created net new, because I could take advantage of the fact that I already have an AI search instance up and running, and that's what I want to use, or I already have a blob storage and I want to use that. So it doesn't need to create something net new every time you kick off a new project, but you have the capability when you do say, hey, I'm doing a new project. Here's the search. Here's where search lives. Here's where OpenAI and our LLM models live. Here's where my documents live. And then from that, I'm going to assemble all that together. And that's kind of what we're going to do here, because you saw I already uploaded documents into essentially a place that that I already have created. Cool. So let's see if there's a way for us to create an agent that can start to go, and we start to ask questions of that content that we have in the VTT. So here I am. I'm going through the inside of a project, as you mentioned. I'm going in here, and I'm going to go ahead and say, let's create an agent, and this is our DevTalkShow agent. Let's create that. So I get now taken into a different area where I have the ability to start to change some things around. So one of the things is, well, what model am I going to use? Now, we shouldn't focus on the model. The model's not the important part. It's part of, it's part of the overall picture, but don't be focused on the model completely, right? I've got 4.1 there. That's probably enough for what we're doing here. The idea is that there are some things we can look at later on called evaluations that can help us kind of decide which is the right model for the question that we're asking. But for something like a chat, something that gives us the ability to really quickly do a back and forth chat interface is fine. 4.1's good. 5 chat, it would be fine too. Both of those are deployed in my environment. And then it tells me, well, these are the ones that aren't deployed, but you may want to consider using if none of those would work. So we'll just leave it there for that. The important bit here is some instructions, right? So this is always the fun part where we want to provide some grounding around what it is the model can do, right? So if we were to ask it a question just out of the blue and say, hey, what do you know? That text got wrapped up and sent over to the model, and that model that it's talking to is a GPT-4.1 model. And it's saying, well, these are some of the general facts that basically it's been trained on, and it's topics that it knows information to are through June of 2024. So as long as we ask it something prior to that, we should be fine. Like, we can't ask it, hey, we can't ask it who won the Super Bowl in 2025. Right, because it happened after, even though for us it's happened in the past, right? It's that whole video thing you're trying to do about tell us who won in the future.
Yeah.
Right, same idea. So because of that, we want to provide additional information, and that's where we start to get into knowledge. Let me make sure. Make sure. Oh, okay. So let's see what we say here. So connect to Foundry IQ, data sources via tools. Let's go this route. So if I say add, we're going to add some tools. And this kind of was what I was expecting, right? So augment agents with knowledge files from the outside. I don't have an existing search though. That's the problem. Let me see if it can step us through doing that. So, well, let's all right. So custom opening a tool agent. No. So we see some of our favorite things in here. Here's model context
Yeah.
protocol that we were talking about last week. Agent to agent is once we start getting multiple agents available, we can actually have the agents communicate to each other. So if we had an agent that was, and maybe that's what this agent becomes, it's very specific about answering questions regarding the topics in our transcripts, then we could expose that for another agent to be able to ask a question as part of some kind of a multi-agent process, let's say. So let's try catalog. And I'll be honest, this new layout is, oh, okay. So maybe we can do this. Let's see. Search. Not blob. Hey, blob storage. Cool. Let's try that. So we can do create. You've selected a Logic Apps connector. It's powered by Logic Apps and need to some Logic App resource be used. Do we really want a Logic App resource? Because then what's going to happen is this endpoint is going to get queried to go do that. I don't think that's what we want. Let's go back to here for a second.
Okay, so I think what was happening there is the particular path you were going down has been implemented with Logic Apps.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And Logic Apps is kind of a workflow, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
and it usually has that HTTP endpoint that you can use as a trigger. So the tooling would basically say, and I'm sure if we'd have gone down the rest of that path, well, what are we pulling out of that blob content essentially? This is kind of what we want to do. And maybe I just need to bite the bullet and go create an AI search over top of that content. So let's do that. If we go back into our Azure portal, I have AIS, there we go. So I have a search service here, and a search service is going to give us the ability to do many different types of searching over content. Or filtering of content results, essentially. So in this case, it could be that I'm just doing a keyword search, or I could be doing much like you do with a Bing search or something like that. It could be that I'm doing a vector-based search, in that the results that the data that I have has run through a process where all of that content, all of those documents we looked at, gets translated into a vectorized embedding of that data. And that makes it much easier for us to find, unlike a keyword search where I say, tell us when we talked about Blazor authentication. Now I'm just looking for the keywords of Blazor and authentication where they appear. But if I say Blazor authentication, those two words being close to each other in a vector search is going to produce results where those two words are close to each other in the content that it's pulling back, as opposed to just appearing in the document somewhere, right? Does that distinction make sense?
Yeah. I'm not sure that I have a better way to explain it, but it's one thing to just, search through text and try to find hits, where I think what I'm understanding or about the data vectorization is that it's by applying like a numericalization to it, now you can apply computations that probably get more accurate answers. Okay, they can determine things like relative closeness, that this is probably related to this in a way that's a little bit better than just like, well, these two things both use the same word, but does that mean they're related? I don't know.
Right. And does that word have the same meaning, right?
Yeah. Right.
Break, break is spelled differently, but you get, something of, and I'm, being put on the spot and blanking, but you get the idea, right? Do they have the same meaning? Because words, even though spelled the same, can have multiple meanings. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if we think about search and creating your own search, the thing you want to create is essentially an index of information. So let's go ahead and start there. Don't worry about all of these. These are some of the examples I've been playing around with, trying to learn how to go ahead and do this. You can do this either through the portal, or you can do this through the making REST calls and creating your own JSON essentially to do that. So if I do that here, I could say, well, I want an ID, and let's say I also want a field that is document title, and these attributes relate to what happens when the results come back, right? So I want to be able to retrieve the document title. I want to be able to make the document title searchable. So being able to say, well, can I find what I'm looking for inside of the title? Probably doesn't make sense to make the document title filterable, although you might want to do that. Sortable, facetable. Those things are more about how can I refine the set of results or organize the set of results in a way based on what's in the document title. All of the attributes you create have those capabilities inside of here. It's just a matter of which ones do you want to expose. And instead of saying, well, just expose them all, well, that means every time you need to recreate your index, that's a lot more compute time and a lot more time in between, something getting updated and you getting the actual ability to use those results. Right now, we're going to use the standard Lucene search, which is an open source search engine for doing this kind of work. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it. Yes, our document title is a string, but you have the ability to do a wide range of different types in here, from standard types to more complex types like collections of objects, essentially.
Okay.
All right. I don't need to make the ID searchable. That's fine. And then let's say I want to also include one here for the content. And let's go ahead and make that a string as well. Retrievable. We definitely want to search it. And yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. It's not letting me create. Why can't I create yet? What am I missing? Oh, I need a name.
Index
name.
Yeah, okay.
So this is well, I could probably do this based on what I saw on the other page. Okay. So now I've got this set of documents, but it doesn't really tell me anything because I don't really have anything that makes that pull together. What does pull that together is the combination of a data source. So let's go ahead and add our data source here, blob storage. That's fine. This is our DDTS doc storage blob. It goes there, storage count. We got this one. And my container, because we created a special one for this, is our transcripts, and everything just sits in the root. So that's all good. So all I did was basically pointed it to that blob storage container that we uploaded the files before. And now I have this data source that I can use to search through and be able to populate those indexes. Now, the way that's done is through something called our indexer. And we're going to add an indexer that's going to bring in our index that we created, our data source that we created, and pull the two of those things together. We don't have a skill set. What is a skill set? Skill set is essentially almost like a pipeline of being able to create your indexed results. So some of those more complex ones that I had out there, I created indexes for them, because they will take the content, they'll break out the images, they'll break down the components of that, and be able to essentially be able to pull those together. And I'm wondering if there is a better wizard to do this than this. Let me see for a second. If you have questions, now would be the time. Otherwise, I'm going to back up maybe a little bit here, because I always come back to this.
Okay. No, I mean, I think I see how, to this point, we're saying, okay, like you put some documents into blob storage and then you specified exactly where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
So that made sense.
Yeah. And all right, let's go back to here because yep, that's fine.
And this is Azure Search Service.
Yes, Azure AI Search, not knowledge bases. So this is anytime you're doing some kind of search, doesn't have to be an AI. Well, I mean, it could just be keyword search, right? And having some way of putting a search over top of blob storage data. It doesn't have, search capabilities in and of its own, right? I mean, I've had people use this service to query their SQL databases, even though they're technically you have SQL. But the idea is that this is just an interface to give you that search capability. I'm trying to keep this simple in the interest of time. So while there is certainly an indexer, and we can bring that in here, what I don't see in the index, and maybe we'll throw that back together and see if it gives us those capabilities, data source. Not going to do a skill set. No. Data to extract. That's what we need. Okay. So these settings here, these advanced settings, are some of the things that you would wind up setting inside of a skill set if you had one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to extract the content and metadata, and I think document extension, we're not excluding any, we're not indexing. No, that's fine. All right. I think that is a good start. So let's save that. Requires a skill set to be attached in order to be set. Okay, so to go this route, it does want the that's interesting. Okay. I don't think either one of those is going to work. Okay, let's just bounce out. All right. I'm
So
go ahead, go for it.
Well, so here's what I'm starting to put together here.
Mm-hmm.
We need something like an Azure AI Search to break down this content that's just, and I'm not trying to use the same word as blob storage, but it's just this like blob of stuff.
Right.
It could be thousands of documents. It could be, I guess it could even be images, videos, maybe. And so it's in a spot. And traditionally, I guess when we think about, or at least when I think about search, I'm probably thinking about what today we would call full text search.
Right.
Just because like the search of the search that became all the rage on the internet was take the phrase or the terms that you've put into a little query, a search box, and break them down, and then go find matches, and then figure out what's most relevant. And the figuring out what's relevant is some of the secret sauce. But, the fact that I searched for like a sports team, like let's say I just searched for LA Kings, that may not be what probably a full text search is going to say is the most relevant is a landing page for the LA Kings, maybe their own homepage, probably their own homepage. And then maybe even a landing page on a popular sports site like an ESPN or an SI or something where they've got landing pages for every team. Because the best full text can do, and I'm not trying to belittle it, I'm just saying, like, look how far we've come. The best full text can do is say, well, you didn't give me a whole lot of context, so this is probably what you're saying. Where if I would have said like LA Kings scores, then it would say like, oh, well, okay, let me go find recaps of recent games and probably the most recent. And I'm sure they build in all kinds of logic to figure out when somebody's searching for sports for this, it's a sports score. They probably want the most recent one. Like you got to figure that over the years and years and years, there's been all kinds of, I would guess like human intervention or maybe even some machine learning to try to say like, we're learning what people want to click on. It's not just a dumb full text search, but this is a next level because now we're setting up search to be used by, well, like you said vectorization or agents. And I don't know if I'm using the right terms for this, but there's searches that are going to take advantage of models that are generative, not just models that just search and go, okay, here you go, most relevant answer.
Yep. Exactly. And with if you combine everything you said there about how we can use these tools to make the searches more meaningful and bring back better results, we can also use the observability side of things to say, well, okay, what are people searching for? How are they searching? And then from that, gear our results and how we, because you can re-rank those results based on what people have asked, and running refining the query against that, taking all that information about how the users are searching, and be able to provide better results to them as well. So it all kind of goes in a loop, just like you're building an application, right? You build the application, you deploy it, you start observing it, and that feeds back into, well, how can we make this application better? Same idea.
Right. And so I've included some notes in the, some links in the description. One of them is the overview to what is Azure AI Search, and it shows an architectural diagram where Azure AI Search is sitting in the middle of your content. And then they kind of say colloquially, like your content and your app. But, app could be many things. It's some interface to that, we're going to interface with. Maybe we talk to it, maybe we type. And then it sends a request to search and decides what it wants to do with it. But I suppose that agent-based search handles it maybe a little differently than just your plain old full text search where you just type in some search terms and get an answer.
Yeah. Can you come off my screen for a minute? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So cool. It was just something that I had noticed. Like I said, I'm new to a lot of this. So
yeah. So here's I'll explain kind of where we are. Oh, cool. You got that one up there. So while I'm signing in over here.
I did not pick your screen, but yet it changed it anyway. Okay. So what we got very quickly was it's for some reason it switched back, which I can't explain, but we got the number that you're looking for, which shouldn't matter too much in a second, right?
Yeah, that's gone. So
okay.
But
I'm still sorry about that, because I was trying to stay off your screen specifically.
Because that's not my screen.
No, it's not. But so you missed it.
Oh,
it was a brief second where the authentication number was shown. So I apologize for that. It should no longer. I think at this point it no longer has value, but
agreed.
But I was trying to switch to this, and just to show here, this is all I was trying to do, is just to say, hey, on the document page, they have this interesting architectural diagram where they say, so Azure Search sits in the middle of your content in your app, really. And so, okay, so I get that, right? It's not something you interface with directly. You use a service like this to get you the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, don't worry about that. Let's go here. So what I am doing is, there we go. Okay, let's cancel this for a second. So if you come back to me.
Okay, all right.
And what I'm trying to do is let's show something that takes us past, in the 5 minutes we've got left. Let's take us something that shows just this general search bit. Okay.
Yep.
And then we'll figure those things out. So if I say, hey, let's add some, add a tool here. And in this case, I'm going to use a Bing search, in this case, a custom Bing search. So I'm going to bring in, there we go. There's our new resource. We're going to connect to that. Now I created that off screen. This is a resource that actually gets created in your Azure subscription. No configurations found. Created new configuration. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Oh, hold on. Are we back? I just wasn't sure, because I know a lot of times using services, it's like, oh, sign in and then sign in again, and
that's
because you're actually signing into something else, right? Like I think you're signing into the Azure portal. So now I took us off. If we're ready, then
yeah, let's go. Let's see if this will work. And I'm trying this from scratch. I haven't done this before. I'm not sure I mean, I know the URL is right, but can it do this? So include subpages, sure. Yeah, we're not going to do a bit of rank adjusting, and we'll say add this configuration name. So what we're doing is basically saying, hey, we've got our website out there. Go ahead and use that as a way to get some grounded content for what it is that we're doing for content. Maybe that's a better youtube.com/. And I'm sorry, I know we're bumping up against the end of your time here. Let's do that. We'll throw that in there too. All right.
Okay, so that's actually interesting to me. Is that
so
this is more than just the transcripts. This is also saying here are some places you can go for more information. Maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is two things. When we go back to our Foundry, you can ground with a Bing search. That grounding with a Bing search uses the Bing index that already exists. Okay. What we're saying here is Bing index is awesome, but we're going to do something a little different. I want you to ground it with some content that I'm basically providing to you. So here's, only returned 5 results. It's in English, freshness. That's fine. Use the date. So we're going to add this. And
is
now
the purpose of this to not, when they use the term grounding, this is to limit it, to say,
yeah,
okay, yeah, you're limiting it to our YouTube channel.
Exactly. And then for this here, I'm really quickly going to drop in some instructions. Not Wi-Fi. Windows H. How about that? All right. So you are a helpful agent who provides information about the content available from the DevTalkShow. You have access to transcripts in the future, and for right now, at least access to the video catalog that they have up on YouTube. Cool. And sometimes that's enough. Now, this is the thing that you always wind up refining and making better. But let's save this. So, and then we're also going to clear this by giving a new chat. And we're going to ask the question, hey there, how many times have Chris and Rich talked about Blazor authentication on the DevTalkShow? Now, we know it's not Laser, it's Blazor. So we'll just correct that real quick. Boom. All right, then let's try this.
It did correct the name of it, so.
Can you give me a few of the titles where they do talk about this? Now, this is important, right? Because it understands the context of the conversation and knows, hey, this is, what we, this is the context of this is Blazor authentication from the previous bit. But what's cool here is this part, right? It's gone ahead and said, hey, here are some actual titles. Now, we haven't given it the transcripts yet. We haven't done anything to point it to our content, except to say there's a YouTube channel. Go do your custom search against that. And it's already come up with these kind of topics, essentially, or these kind of titles.
Okay. And then, like you said, it's grounded to the YouTube channel. So is it, because it's interesting that it's complaining that it can't. So I wasn't able to find a direct list of episode titles. Yeah.
Well, let's try this. So if I take this out, if I remove it,
okay,
and we save it, and we do a new chat, what I'd like to be able to do, I should have kept the message. Sorry. Well, this is cool. So in traces, I could do that. So let's bring back in this last conversation, and this one. All right, how many times? So here's I'll copy this. So traces, an agent keeps track of the conversations that you have, so you can go back and look at the metrics and what happened and all of those kind of things. So I'm just going to go back and repaste this here.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is
Now
directly it, right?
that's interesting, right? Because we took out the knowledge. Now, if we look at the trace, we should be able to see in this last one here, there's the conversation, the response, and the message that came back. Okay. If we look at this one, we can see here that we've got, see the difference? In this one, it actually ran the step where it ran out and ran our custom search.
Right.
And it ran it, looks like it ran it a couple times, I guess, between the different answers that we had. So interesting that this one was the last one and it came back with this information. All of those are older shows from 2020, which I don't think we were doing Blazor in 2020.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure our Blazor authentication stuff was within the last 2 years, like 23 at the oldest.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. I think some of this is a little bit of hallucination going on there,
Okay.
but based on the content that it was essentially trained with would be my guess.
Now, so this is different from the pointing when you pointed at the blob storage. This is a more general search, especially because we took the grounding.
Yeah, it was a more general search just to kind of get things up and running and showing. So,
because I just sent in Discord like a more specific question. I don't know if if that would help.
Let's try it.
I don't know. I guess what we probably also would want to say there is like, if so, like what episode was it, and do you have a YouTube link? But maybe it'll figure that out.
Yeah, and that's why I think if you look at the titles here, like this title doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
But I think if you go back to, so this is the one where it was kind of going off of his training data. But if you go to this, oh, that's the last one. Sorry. If you go back to this, where it went through and it actually came back with, you know, parts of that custom search and running that query for block it, you know,
yeah,
yeah. It's coming back with essentially some better sets of results as a result of that. All right, sorry, your question is, I know we probably should wrap after this. Let's do this. Let's close this out. I'm going to bring the knowledge base back in, if that's cool.
Okay.
Because it'll take 2 seconds. Yes, I've already got one. There we go. Add it. Boom. Only answer with the information returned from either the grounding or the tool's content.
Okay.
It's knowledge or tools. Okay. And then down here, we'll paste your question. Let's save
Right.
it.
Which was there an episode where there was a demo to integrate Blazor Auth with an organization's Entra ID? I mean, I don't know that it will be, but I'm hoping that there's like one answer. But
enable how about, do you have the link for this episode? See, this is why I speak and not type episode. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. Huh. Interesting that it says it can't find a link. All right.
And that may be something we can tweak, but you can see the debugging here and kind of what it found, and tried to go through the tool of this. And we might need to refine some things on the search tool as well. But yeah, so it's kind of a start,
right?
But you can see some of the things that you can really quickly get going with the agent capabilities here, and then be able to come back. And I think that's what we probably should do for Wednesday, is come back and do the refined AI search.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's so there's a couple things I learned. For instance, I didn't know specifically that this could be combined with Bing Custom Search, which again is also a tool that I kind of knew just a little about. So, but it's starting to make more sense where you say, okay, instead of telling it that your goal is to figure this out based on the entire internet, like here's a narrow place to look, number one, and then we can combine that with things like transcripts and see if it can put things together. It would be really neat. And I suppose the prompt is probably pretty important too.
Exactly. All of those things you mentioned, the prompt, the knowledge, the tools, are things that are trying to narrow down that wide, huge collection of information that it was trained with, and information that's publicly available on the internet, to be able to refine it and say, here's really what you're looking for. Otherwise, it's not much more useful than just a keyword search where you're scrolling page to kind of figure out, well, where's the content I'm looking for.
Okay, so we need more time to refine it. We need more time to get it the information it needs. But at this point, we're a little bit past 8:30, so we want to thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully you get a good start as to where you can go to look at Microsoft Foundry. And this, which just seems to be like it's this one-stop place for all these tools, which maybe in the past I wouldn't have known what to do because I was trying to put it together myself. Where here I'm starting to see how it's leading you together. So, in any case, Rich, if that's it, thank you very much for setting us up.
Absolutely.
And but yeah, we got to get going. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know any questions or comments you have below. If you like this kind of content, hit the like button. Otherwise, you can always find our shows in the archives at youtube.com/the DevTalkShow. Until next time, for Rich, I'm Chris, and we'll see you all next time on the DevTalk Show.